Hi, this is Gail Knott with Non-Limited Solutions. So previous videos we talked about your editorial calendar. We talked about your blogging and what would make great status updates. Now, how do you decide what goes on Facebook versus LinkedIn versus Twitter? So first part of that, let's just lay it all on the line. Do you post the same things in all those sites, or do you make it different on all those sites? So the easy answer is yes, but I'm sure that's not the answer you want. So the answer is depends, which I know isn't a great answer either. So here's what I suggest not doing is complete automation, and you're never online and you're never there to check things out or to interact or engage with people. So that's a no-no. Now, let's look at the ideal perfect situation. Yes, every post you have is different, unique for all the different social media sites that you're on. Now, let's look at reality. Reality is you will find a balance that's somewhere in the middle. So, here's my suggestion, and we'll look at the culture of each site, and you can make a decision of what works best for you. So the blog post, that's already done. You put that on your blog. Does it automatically post on the other sites? Twitter is very forgiving when it comes to automation. It's almost a given. So yes, let your blog posts automatically post onto Twitter. And there's different tools you can use. You can use plugins. You can use third-party software. You can use Twitter feed is a popular one. So decide which tool you want to use, and yes, you could let the blog post automatically go to Twitter. I suggest not necessarily doing that on Facebook. I find that some people you can get a better interaction if they copy and paste the link themselves into their Facebook page and then add a question with it. So if you have a question with it, then you'll get responses. You might get an automatic like from a lot of people, but if you ask a question that relates to the blog post, you'll get comments and more interaction onto your page. So that's one way of doing it. The other way is I really like the Networked Blogs app on Facebook. So before, with the how Facebook was laid out just a few months ago, I wouldn't recommend Network Blogs, because what it was doing was it was squeezing anything that was updated with that same app. It was squeezing it all together, and so maybe you had 40 blog posts go out the same day. You'd only see one out of that 40, so your blog post might have been hidden. So 6 months ago, I would say a different thing. But with the current Facebook changes, you can get away with it and it'll be fine. So one way to have your cake and eat it too, you can use Network Blogs on your personal profile and then copy and paste and make it manual on your page, or vice versa. So that's your blog. Now, what goes well on Twitter, what goes on Facebook, and what goes well on LinkedIn. Twitter, you automatically have a size limit, only 140 characters. So that's an automatic limiter right there. In your blog post, you have those little nuggets of gold that are just maybe a sentence long. Those would be perfect. They could be affirmations, tips of the day, things to think about, and of course, the title of your blog and a link back, or a question that you ask in your blog, and you ask them, hey, leave your comments on my blog, let me know what your feedback is. So those are some ideas for Twitter. The Twitter website has become more multimedia friendly. So if you use something like TwitPeak and send a photo, or put a link to a video that goes straight to YouTube, if someone's on the website, they can watch those watch the video or look at the photo. But if people are using third-party software or they're looking on their phone, that's not as easy to do. So the updates work really well on Twitter. Previously, also, when Twitter first started, people were using it as a social networking site. Twitter's kind of evolved into a more media distribution site. So Twitter's great for up-to-the-minute updates, distributing information. Of course, you can still meet people on Twitter, and I've had met some wonderful people on Twitter, both just strictly online and then meeting them in person as well. But the focus on Twitter, think of it more as media distribution. It can also be a great way to find customer, if there's customer complaints or customer questions. You can do a lot of searching on Twitter and find people in your area who are talking about a particular topic. So, for example, I used to run a wellness center, and when a natural food store closed down in our area, I searched for the people within a 10-mile radius of my wellness center, and who were the people who were talking about this natural food store, because those would be great ideal clients for me. And would I be able to strike up a conversation with them, get to know them, follow them, and see if they were interested in checking out our center. So that's one way you could use Twitter. So that wasn't really a status update, but Twitter definitely has its purpose, and it's a wonderful tool. Now, Facebook, we talked about blogs going to Facebook. What works really well on Facebook are photos. Photos are number one on Facebook. You've probably seen it yourself. You probably clicked like. You probably checked it, clicked on it to see a larger image. You probably shared it and so on. So images are great. So if you're looking at your blog post, do you have an image that's already there that you can just put on Facebook, that you can upload to Facebook? Do you have, or maybe a graph? Or do you want to create a video, or create a photo, or find a photo that relates to what you're talking about? You could do a quick little Photoshop on it, or another image editor. And what's really popular are photos with phrases written on the photo. So that's really easy to do that for you to create. So some ideas there. Photos work really well on Facebook. Videos are second, usually. So if you're creating a video blog post, you can post a video on there. Or maybe you find a video on YouTube that's really popular and you could post it on your Facebook page as well that relates to your topics. The next popular updates on Facebook are links. So links back to your blog post or other articles that you could recommend, or other sites that you recommend. And then finally, status updates. Now, the length of status updates, Facebook just increased it. You can now write up to or over 60,000 characters. That's insane. So you could write a whole book if you want, a whole chapter if you wanted to. I don't know if that's really going to work out too well. If you want to try that out, try it out. Try out doing status updates of different lengths and see which ones you get the most interactions with. And it depends on your audience. But overall, I found that short updates, even though you can write long ones on Facebook, short updates get the most interaction. But try it out. Try out different things for the month, and then look at your insights, the statistics that are built into your Facebook business page, and it will tell you which of your posts are the most popular. And you could organize them by what type of post. And you can look at how many people did it reach, how many people interacted with the post, and of course the viral activity. Did it go viral? And you could look and observe which ones have gone the most viral. And what I found is, for me so far, photos have been the best. But it could also be timing. I do a lot of my video blog posts at night. For me, it's a quiet time for me. And I could do these blog posts without feeling like I have a deadline besides bedtime. But posting them at night, obviously I'm going to have less people seeing them because less people are up. So those are some things to consider too, is the timing of your posts. Now, do you let Facebook go to Twitter? Some people say no, and I say if that's going to be one of your ways to update Twitter, go ahead and go for it. I don't like to say there's an ultimate wrong, except complete automation. Complete automation is the ultimate wrong with social media. But letting Facebook go to Twitter, that's, it's not the worst thing. It's one of those things that you can have somewhat a balance of. If you do other things on Twitter, if you still are hands-on with Twitter, we'll let that one slide. And lastly, with LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can have the same kind of type of posts that you can have on Twitter and Facebook. What I think also works well on Twitter are actual work updates. Things like you're working on a proposal for a client's new website.